Hey Stashers, welcome to the CraftStash podcast. I'm your host, Kim. I'm not really sure what episode number this is, but it's okay because it's fall. Hey guys, welcome to yet another episode of the CraftStash podcast. I'm recording here live in the bedroom. Woo! The sunlight is really great in here today because it's fall. I'm recording indoors. But anyway, that's not really why you came here to figure out whether or not I was in my living room or my bedroom. We came to talk about crafty things. So in this episode, we've got a little bit of what I'm crafting, a little bit of what I'm stashing, and of course, some periphery. So let's get started with what I'm crafting. Yay, I finished a pair of socks a couple of weeks ago, but I've been wearing them, and you don't necessarily want to see worn socks. They were in my last episode, I think number 115, the rainbow socks, which were really, really fun. They were tube socks, and that's probably all I'm going to say about them. They're up on my Ravelry page if you're interested. What I've been working on lately is I'm kind of obsessed with tubes now, and I want to knit. I don't know if you guys remember last year I knit what I called a hug, which was basically just a big tube that turned into like a skirt kind of, but I don't wear it as a skirt. It's basically like a, what do you call those? Like a poncho, like a half poncho, where I just kind of started knitting and knit for 4 inches and then increased 8 stitches every other inch until it kind of covered my shoulders, and that was about it. It's a really nice comfy cowl, and I've always wanted to make something much larger that kind of could cover, you know, one of those cowls that could like come up to here if I wanted it to, or slouch down, or something that could kind of even fit over my body. So a couple of months ago on Pinterest I found this really fun drawing that was kind of a pattern, kind of not a pattern, and it was basically just a big knit tube with 2 holes in it that you could wear as a cowl that would be really, really chunky, or let it slip over your shoulders and slip your arms through the sides, and it became like a body cowl. So that's kind of what I'm working on. So to that effect, here's the beginning of the body hug. It's a really simple pattern, non-pattern, which is why I'm kind of shocked that no one has anything up for something similar to it. My interpretation is going to be a mix of a couple of different patterns. I forget the names right now. I'll flash them on the bottom of the screen. One of them I think is Coachella, which is a sleeveless shell tank top. And the pattern that I always misname as being by Mary Heather Kogar, I think it's not hers, it's basically just a poncho with some lace in it. So what I'm doing is I cast on about 120 stitches. I figured out that my gauge with this yarn and this needle was about 5 stitches per inch, 4 or 5 stitches per inch, and that when it got wet blocked it stretched a whole heck of a lot, so I can probably already slip this on over my head. So as you can see, it's going to be a nice, rather fitted but kind of still slouchy cowl, and as it gets a little bit bigger, longer, I'm going to get it slightly wider so that it can fit over the hips. And I will add 2 slits. I have not figured out if I'm going to do the slits vertically or horizontally, and it's going to become a big old body hug. So what are the details? These are size 9 Chagu interchangeable needles, which I absolutely love, with the ubiquitous red cable. This yarn is a really fun yarn. So I'm actually stored in my Bling Your String bag from the wonderful Erin. I don't know if you can see that in there. Double lined, great bags. It is a mix of 2 yarns. I'm holding yarns double for maybe only the second time ever in my crafty life. And I'm mixing high-low. So I went on Etsy. I've been stocking this yarn for months, and nobody ever bought it, so I went ahead and bought it. 3 different skeins by Piratenwolle, I guess. I think German or Belgian company. These 3 lovely skeins. This is the green skein, there is a blue skein and a pink skein that are going to do some fun flashing, and it's gray, white, and the color. So this is the green skein. And I mixed it when I realized that this is really lovely yarn, but it's like a super thin fingering. And if I was going to be doing it on big needles, I definitely needed to kind of pump up the volume. So I paired it with another super thin fingering, this time from Michaels. I've never heard of this brand, but it's okay. It's Loops and Threads, which is like a discount brand of yarn. I'm not a snob, whatever. This is 85% acrylic, 15% nylon, and this is 678 yards for $2.99. Bargain. So I bought 3 of these. I have 3 of these. This is about 400, 500 yards per skein. So I'm just holding them double. And it's giving me this really nice, loose, thick gauge, which I'm very excited about. So this is going to be me working on this for another month or 2. I started this week, and it's going. It's not super fast, but I don't know if you guys can see. I'm trying to figure out if I want to do any cabling in here. It's definitely going to flash and hopefully not pool. You can see that kind of color of the green moving back and forth. So I don't think I'm going to do lace in here because I want it to be solid. But I also don't know if I add a cable in here. I don't know if you guys can even tell. I'm doing a very loose. There was a rib here and then like 1 rib in each of the 4 corners. And I'm trying to figure out if I want to try cables in here because I think cables might get lost, but we'll see. So that's one thing that I'm working on. And that's all that I'm working on as far as you guys are concerned, because everything else is in another room. So what am I stashing? So yesterday I headed down to Greenpoint, Brooklyn at the invitation of my friend Kristen, who is Woolike of the Yarngasm podcast. She is going to be taking part in a pop-up shop. She does all these really fun pop-up shops in the city. This time for a shop called Gauge and Twist, which was started by Michelle Wang, who is a knitwear designer, who wanted to kind of just try out opening a yarn shop in Greenpoint. So last night they had their opening party for the pop-up shop, and Kristen and I went along with Maria, who is Venus Fueri of the Subway Knits podcast. So we had a really great time and hung out in the shop. I have a couple of pictures that I can show. And we all got lovely goodie bags because, of course, could not resist purchasing things. So let's take a look at what was in our goodie bags. So I got a pattern, Edie, from Brooklyn Tweed, and I'm actually going to give this away, do this as a giveaway because I like this pattern but not enough to knit it. So I'm happy to pass on the good fortune. It looks like a pretty basic pattern with some very, very subtle cabling. So that's a giveaway. So what you can do to enter the giveaway is I unfortunately have not been on Ravelry super much, so I'm going to post this episode in my Instagram account. If you guys are interested in winning the pattern, just leave a comment on that post on my Instagram account. It's Creole at Instagram.com, and you have to friend me because it's private. What else is in the goodie bag? We got buttons from Quince & Company. And we got 2 fun mini skeins, which I already de-skeined and wore as jewelry last night. So I de-skeined them and wore them as jewelry because they're so lovely. This pretty mini skein is from Kristen. This is her Tiffany colorway. Let me try and find the tiny, tiny little labels. Come on, tiny labels. Here's a tiny, tiny little label. So this is Tiffany, and it just says mini skein because it's so tiny. But it's a single twist. I don't know if you guys can see. And these really lovely, I think it's named for Tiffany glass, because these lovely like bottle green and bottle blues and kind of a hint of lavender and bright yellow and white. It's really, really pretty. It's about 5 grams. I'm looking for patterns that are like 5 grams or 15 yards worth of yarn because I have a lot of mini skeins and I'm kind of tired of my mitered square blanket already. So if you've got any recommendations, let me know. The other mini skein that I got was a new to me yarn called Sleep Season. Meg in Colorado does these really fun colors, really great speckle dyes, and this does not have a colorway name, but I was looking at it yesterday in the shop. It's Superwash Merino. And it's 15 yards. She can be found on Big Cartel. It's this really fun bright green, so there's that. And the reason that I was excited to get that mini skein in my goodie bag is because I bought some of her yarn. So this is, again, Sleep Season Fiber. The URL is sleepseasongoods.bigcartel.com. This is her Songbird colorway, which, if you know me, you know why I picked it up. It's that lovely, lovely purple and the grayish brown. And those pops of orange are just enough to kind of make it fall and interesting and fun without scaring me off. So this is, again, this is Superwash Merino. This is a single ply. Really love single plies these days. And it's about 400 grams. 400 yards, rather. Yeah, really pretty. I was really tempted to do this last night. thing that I do sometimes, which is, hopefully this didn't just mess it up, which is to kind of just wear the yarn as a necklace, because now that it's fall we can do these kinds of things. Yeah, so that was what was in the goodie bag. Oh, sorry, and there was one more thing. Jones and Vandermeer. I know Vandermeer is a street in Brooklyn, so maybe they're from Brooklyn. Jones and Vandermeer made this little wooden button that says handmade on it. I don't know if you can see that, which was very fun. So yeah, that was a pretty good goodie bag, right? So this was Stash acquisition. Very, very lovely. And I also got some fiber. The pop-up shop is tiny. It's tiny, but it's packed full of good stuff. They have Brooklyn Tweed, they have Quince & Company, they have Tana's Fiber Arts, they have Hedgehog fibers, kind of hard-ish to find yarns that you can touch and squeeze and play with in person. And Kristen's going to be doing a pop-up there in a couple of weeks, so very exciting. I bought some clown barf, you guys. It is clown barf. So much so that I bought it, and there were a couple of guys who were non-knitters, non-crafters, just kind of they were hanging out with their peoples. And I was walking around with this, and this guy's like, "Is that like, what is that? Is that like cotton candy? Like, what do you do with that?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna turn it into yarn." He's like, I'm gonna see you from a mile away if you're spinning this." And I'm like, "You'll be lucky if you see me from a mile away, number one." Number two, what's the problem? So it was just kind of funny, but it's really, really bright. It's really, really bright. Ah! But I'm excited about it. This is 222 Handspun, which again, new company to me. I don't even know where they're based. But this is Polwarth. And Polwarth is such a fun, fluffy, soft, poofy fiber that in these colors, it's going to be really, really interesting to see what happens. So this is 4 ounces of Polwarth, which was pretty well priced at $20. So I'm very excited because I've been trying to learn to spin thicker. So this is going to be a fun, not art yarn, but like a fun, thick yarn. So very, very excited about that. And that is what I scored. So what else is going on? In terms of periphery, like fun stuff is happening. I'm trying to see what's interesting to you guys. I also got the latest the latest issue of Ply magazine. It's about community, so there's lots of fun stories. Let me just run through the table of contents. There's a cardigan as far as products go. There is a wrapped hat, whatever that is, as far as that goes. And there's some sort of collective challenge by like having multiple people spin on one thing, which sounds fun. There's articles about Shetland wool. There's articles about spinning on the 7 train in New York City. There's articles about weavers guilds. Let's see. The spindle sommelier, where they talk about how to pair the fiber that you're working with your spindles, which I'm definitely going to check out. So I think I'm going to read through this a little bit and report back. But there are really fun patterns in here, and if you haven't picked up Ply magazine, I definitely suggest that you take a look at it. It's a really good magazine. Yay, spindling in Brooklyn. In terms of periphery, what else have I got for you? You know, I don't think I have much, actually. I've been doing my nails a lot more. It's just like, what do you guys want to hear about? Last night I hung out with Kristen and Maria. I was supposed to go dancing afterwards, but I'm old, and after having dinner and leaving dinner at 11, I was like, I kind of just want to go home and hang out. So I came home and watched Frozen. So that was my fun Saturday night, which is totally my speed. Greg and I are heading out to go to brunch with a friend for her birthday, and then we're going to go to the Bronx because we're looking for apartments to buy. So wish us luck and like home buying stuff. It's gonna be exciting. Big new things happening. So yeah, I think that's about it for now. If you do follow me on Instagram, I've been trying to post more of these like bite-sized 17-second Instacast episodes, as I call them, where I just kind of zoom in on me doing something creative, whether it's nail polish, whether it's yarn, whether it's whatever, and that's being covered there. And now that I mentioned that, I do have one thing for periphery that I wanted to share with you guys. So a couple of months ago, if you follow me on Instagram, sorry, everything is Instagram these days, you saw a series of doodles that I was doing called Zentangle. Those were really, really fun, but they got to be too much homework for me. Like, figuring out what pattern to do next was a bit too much, so I started a new kind of doodling that I wanted to share with everyone. And I'm calling Grid Doodles because doodle dots was already taken. I'm very big on like custom hashtags, so .grid doodle is the hashtag that I'm using for it, and it's basically this. You find, all you need is some gridded paper. You can't see the grids probably, but you just kind of connect the dots in linear or organic ways, and the whole point is to not lift up your pen, so you try to make it one continuous line, and it's really fun and really freeing. Because you can kind of do it on autopilot, but you have to think about it just enough so that you don't go back upon, like you're not allowed to touch one dot more than once. So there were a couple of times, like if I were able to zoom in, there were a couple of times where I was like, oh, I boxed myself into a corner, so I had to kind of stop and start over again. And you can kind of see that because I made fun little designs around it. But I wanted to share it because it was a really fun way to doodle, draw on paper every day and not be intimidated by saying, I'm going to draw my hand, I'm going to draw this landscape, I'm going to draw this shoe, which sounds really easy, but if you're like me and you're such a perfectionist for detail, it gets kind of daunting. So I really like these doodle dots because it gets you to be creative. It takes me about 5 to 10 minutes to do these things. I bang them out. There's no rules, and it's really fun and quick. So I wanted to share the doodle dots with you guys. I will put pictures of the Instagram posts so that you guys can see a zoom in, but other than that, that's about it. So I'm going to leave you guys here. Have a wonderful Sunday. It's super sunny and great and fall-like in New York City, so tights and boots, here I come. In the meantime, if you can't craft it, stash it. Cheers!